This woman bore the royal titles of 3 states. Evil tongues asserted that these 3 crowns had taken her head off. The most romantic queen of the 16th century, Mary Stuart, perished under the axe of an executioner as a mere mortal. Mary Stuart was born in 1542 in Linlithgow Palace, residence of the Scottish kings. She wasn't even a week old when her father, the Scottish King James V, died. The toddler became the Queen of Scotland. Her mother, a Frenchwoman, Mary de Guise, proposed her 5-year-old daughter to 3-year-old Dauphin François as a wife and sent her to Paris. The girl knew Latin and ancient Greek, loved poetry, and wrote verses by herself. Soon after her 15th birthday, Mary, as it had been planned, married Dauphin François. 1 year later, her young spouse became king, and Mary Stuart, the Queen of Scotland, became Queen Consort of France. But 2 years after her husband's death, she lost the French crown. Outwardly, 18-year-old Mary bore her loss with restraint and calm. Only her verses revealed what was in her soul. Alone at night grieving, I suddenly feel the touch of his hands and his tender kiss. Awaken or dreaming, I think only of him. Mary Stuart began to rule her native but unloved Scotland. Power-seeking Mary also pretended to a crown of England, as she had dynastic rights to the English throne. This, of course, displeased English Queen Elizabeth, and with it began a long-term confrontation between the 2 queens. At the age of 22, amorous Mary Stuart married her cousin, 19-year-old Henry Darnley. But soon she cooled off him, and she became fond of her young secretary, an Italian called David Riccio. This infuriated Henry, who ordered to kill Mary's lover right in front of the Queen's apartment. Then she developed an infatuation with Earl of Bothwell. It was rumored that Elizabeth, the Queen of England, who wanted to manipulate the flirty Scottish Queen, had sent him. Bothwell conspired against Mary's husband. On the night of February 9, 1567, Darnley was strangled to death and his house was set on fire. It was not sure whether Mary was involved in this crime, but soon she married Lord Bothwell, the murderer of her spouse. This marriage stirred up resentment in the country. Mary's army, which had been faithful to her before, refused to protect her after her new marriage. Under constant pressure from London, Mary made one political mistake after another. Protestants forced her to renounce the Scottish throne for the benefit of her son James. Thus saving her life, Mary Stuart lost her 2nd Scottish crown, which she had worn for 7 years. The deposed Queen Mary Stuart assembled an army to get back the Scottish throne, but she suffered a humiliating defeat at Langside. Then Mary escaped from Scotland to England, and she couldn't think of anything better than to request her old enemy, Queen Elizabeth, for help. This mistake cost Mary her freedom. The allegations against her regarding her role in her husband's murder set the ground for her imprisonment. But even in prison, Mary remained the pretender to the English throne. The opposition who wanted to dethrone Queen Elizabeth aspired for her release. Revolts broke out in the country, one after the other. Another plot was headed by Duke of Norfolk, the new suitor for Mary's hand. but the rebels were arrested, and in 1572, the Duke was executed. Another conspiracy plot of the Catholics was revealed within the next 3 years. This time, Mary was accused not only of participation in the mutiny, but also of the attempt on the life of the Queen of England. But Mary Stuart was condemned for the old and unproved crime, participation in murder of her husband, Henry Darnley. After 9 years of imprisonment, the court passed the death sentence upon her. On February 1st, 1587, Elizabeth signed death sentence to Mary Stuart, the former Queen of Scotland, the former Queen of France, and the pretender to the English throne. On February 8, 1587, 45-year-old Mary Stuart was beheaded in a hall in Fotheringay Castle. Mary, a romantic at heart who preferred Ronsard's verses to Machiavelli's treatise, appeared to be a bad politician, playing only one role persistently, the role learnt from the cradle, the role of queen.